Hi everyone and welcome back to another YouTube video and our little safe space on the internet. I really hope you guys are doing well and keeping okay. This question has got to be one of the biggest questions that I get, especially in the most recent months, and that is, why does my nan call me mummy? And of course there are numerous and multiple reasons as to why this happens and why this is, but I thought we could sit down together, kind of work it out together and explain exactly why that is. And yeah, if you haven't already, grab yourself a drink, a choice of beverage, whatever that may be. I think my choice of beverage today would definitely be an iced vanilla matcha with vanilla milk and vanilla syrup. Let's grab our drinks and get right on into the video. So if you are brand new to our channel, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome in. And if you have been here for a while, welcome back to a brand new video. We literally document everything dementia related here, from dementia education videos that we do to daily vlogs of me and my nan who has dementia of over 8 years, and also just showcase the true reality of what dementia can look like on a specific journey. Obviously, no two dementia journeys are exactly the same. They are all completely individual and different, but this is just how my nan's journey looks and this is how we navigate through. So welcome in, and if you are brand new, don't forget to press subscribe if you are interested in the dementia related content, or if you relate to dementia in any sort of way and wish to follow along. It would mean the world to have you join us on our little community here. So I thought I'd start off this video with a little backstory into my nan's journey with dementia, of when she was diagnosed, how long she's had it, and literally leading up to where we are today at the grand age of 93 years old. My nan is incredible and has so much strength, it's unbelievable. But right back to 8 years ago, my nan was diagnosed with vascular dementia and Alzheimer's. I personally believe she had these years before, but trying to get her diagnosed was a whole story in itself, and I'd love to do a whole separate video on the process of my nan being diagnosed, because yeah, it was a journey and an incredibly tough journey to go on, because I felt like we weren't heard. I felt like the diagnosis process was really, really long, and it took us a really long time to get her listened to and heard and diagnosed. So she has a combination of the two. I'd say at the very early stages of her being diagnosed, for the first 3, maybe even touching 4 years, she was incredibly independent, still living at home. She did have wraparound care from her family to also like carers as well that came in to look after her. We made it work really well in the first 4 years of her being diagnosed, and again she took it in her stride. She was like, I've had cancer, I've lost my love of my life, my husband, I can take on this too. And here we are now at the grand age of 93. My nan is completely bedbound and she very much lives 100% in this dementia bubble now. She doesn't really come out to the reality anymore. She's very much trapped. I've always used this analogy of a dementia bubble. It's just kind of helped me to process dementia, and also for me to understand dementia and how it works. So this dementia bubble is very much dementia capturing my nan and taking her away from us for a small period, for seconds, minutes, days, years. And now we're very much at the point where she's not in touch with her reality anymore, and she's in this dementia bubble and she's very much locked in there. There's not really many opportunities now where we unlock her and bring her out. She does still have moments of where I recognise Nan, if that makes sense. She still does come out a very small amount of time with a joke or a memory that relates Nan to Nan, if that makes sense. But when she's in this dementia bubble, she's very much a stranger to me, just as I'm a stranger to her. So my nan now doesn't know anything about the reality. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't even question where she is. Some days she's on a train, some days she's in Benidorm, some days she's back in Chesterfield with her mum, and we travel through the timeline of her memories, but also through the ages of her life. Some days I can walk in and she can be the age of 3 years old, and she has all the mannerisms of a 3-year-old. She's spitting food, she's biting things, she's, again, a 3-year-old. Some days we go to the age of like her teens and we're living in the teen age where she's just met her husband, and it really does feel so incredible to be on that journey of like unlocking that story with her and reliving all of the memories that I were never a part of, because I'm her granddaughter and I didn't come into her life until a lot later on. So it really is nothing short of remarkable to be a part of, but also comes with all the heavy heartache of my nan not knowing who I am anymore and recognising me and constantly asking me who I am. And on the really heavy days of aggression and anger, she can be literally physically pushing me and telling me to get out of her room, and she doesn't want me there around her, and it's, yeah, heartbreaking in so many ways. So yeah, that is a little story in a nutshell of my nan's journey right up to now. Of course, there are so much more bits of detail that I couldn't possibly even speak about in this video because it would take me hours, but I would really love to do a whole separate video if you were interested in my nan's journey, like the diagnosis, and a whole separate video, but also her journey since diagnosis right up to now, like the present moment, and how every single stage of her dementia journey has unfolded, because I really think that would be really special to share that with you, and also be a point of access for so many of you that are on this journey yourself, or want to understand dementia a little bit more, or want to learn about my nan's journey in particular, because yeah, it's really overwhelming to know so many people are here following along this journey of me and my nan and just navigating through this together. I truly couldn't do it without your support, so just a massive thank you if you are here doing that. Thank you. If you didn't see on our channel already, we do have my nan's story before she got diagnosed with dementia, with a lot of depth into how her life looked, and all her children, her family details are all in that video, so I will link that down below for you guys to check out if you wish. But yeah, let's get right on into this video now. So I firstly just wanted to start off by saying it isn't just me that she calls mummy. She very much calls everybody mummy, and this happens 90% of the time. There isn't really many days that I visit now where she doesn't call me mummy anymore. It has very much been something that she's taken on since she jumped right down to the very early stages of her life and was reliving those moments of being a younger version of herself, and she would use mummy because that was her babyfied language and her mannerisms of that age when she was jumping back to those stages of her life. But it's never really disappeared. She's always kind of used that terminology now. There are some days where she will change it to mum, and it may seem really little, but that choice of language and the difference between the two of mummy and mum means that she is an older version of herself. There are some days where she will call me grandma and other different names that she portrays me as for that day. Some days she will ask me my name, and in that moment she will use my name Jessica, but she won't have the links and connections to who Jessica is because she doesn't quite know who Jessica is and doesn't recognise this version of me, but doesn't recognise Jessica at all because she's living in a much younger age of her life where Jessica wasn't even a part of her life at that time. So yeah, she calls me mummy pretty much 90% of the time now. And I will be honest, it was really hard at the start because I wanted to be known as her granddaughter. I wanted her to know me, and I spent so long battling that, of her trying to know who I was, that it really took away the present moment and the joy in that moment of being just present with her and having her still here with us. So it took me a long time to detach myself as a granddaughter to my nan and as Jessica to Jean. I now am a stranger to a stranger, and it took me a really long time to get here, and it definitely was a whole journey in itself. And again, maybe even I could do a separate video on how I managed to do that, but detaching myself from the relationship I had with my nan was really hard, and I was constantly trying to reach for it, this relationship that I always had, and it was just never there. That bond had just broken and the string was cut, and this relationship was no longer present, and I had to accept it. And now I walk in as a stranger and I'm okay with that, and my nan is greeted with a stranger and she's okay with that too. So that is kind of how it's looked, but it has definitely felt really heavy, and it hasn't been an easy journey to cope with in any means. Again, it's all those forms of grief, that anticipatory grief that you go through, and you say goodbye to different versions of your nan or the loved one that has dementia as you go through the process of the journey. She uses mummy 90% of the time as the word that she calls everybody. She even calls my dad mummy as well, so even hearing that male voice, she still uses mummy. There are moments where she does click out of her dementia bubble for a really, really short time, and will question herself and be like, oh, you're not my mummy though, are you? You're my grandma, are you? And then she'll like question herself, which is really interesting because, again, like I said, she's very much trapped in this dementia bubble all of the time now. So to have those really minute, small moments where she questions her own self is really interesting and very quite fascinating. And I will never correct her, and I will always, always, always tell people to never correct that individual with dementia, because they won't remember. They will remember for that really small time, and then they won't remember again. And if they do remember again, it will come in very small times, but they will never remember it. It causes distress, it causes upset, it causes frustration. And I just feel like, why would you purposefully cause that when everything's pretty calm at the moment? Unless, of course, there is upset already, but there's no point pushing that even further. There is no need to correct it. Go along with the journey and jump into their dementia world. And that is something that I will always tell everybody. If anybody ever asks me what's one piece of advice that you would give, it is to jump into the dementia world and be a part of their world, and not expect them to come back into ours and our reality, because it doesn't always happen and can't happen, unfortunately, when it does progress further into the stages of dementia, especially the end stages of dementia for sure. So you may be questioning why my nan chooses to use the word mummy in specifics. Now, there can be multiple reasons to this, but I personally believe that mummy is the most stored, deeply rooted relationship word and name that you have within your memory from the very first day that you were brought into the world, no matter who your parent, carer, guardian was at the time. For my nan, in her story in particular, her mum was the person that brought her into this world and was a really important role for her from the very first day. So I personally believe it's just an engraved word that you never forget within your brain. So that is one example. Two, I personally believe that my nan associates the security, safety, love, kindness, compassion with those that enter her room now. So anybody that walks into her room that provides one of those things for her in the same way that her mum did, she associates it with her mum and believes that we're her mum in that time. And if I'm honest, it really is such an honour to be called her mum, mummy, mother, because she associates me with the most special relationship she ever had in life, and somebody that did upbring her with the most love, kindness and support ever. So to be associated with that is nothing short of incredible and really feels like a blessing. So that is another emotion that I take from it. Not only is it heartbreak, but it is also such an honour, to be quite honest, and really special. I also do think that she views me as somebody that she feels like she knows in a familiar way, but doesn't have the connections or the memory link for who I am. So she calls me what she knows and what she remembers in her brain at that time, and again associates me with that level of care and nurture that her mum gave to her. So I personally think there's loads of different factors. Again, there's probably a lot of scientific brain information overload that I could probably go into in terms of dementia in itself, but those are just the things of how I've kind of coped with it and what I kind of believe on this journey, and I kind of hope that helps in some way too. So just to briefly touch on the scientific facts, and I say briefly with a very heavy heart because it really is a brief scientific point here, but dementia does cause misidentification where it doesn't have the link to the face and the name anymore of items, people, locations, everything. It kind of loses that string between the two and it feels like they've been cut. So my nan's brain, this is kind of like the analogy that I understood dementia best at this particular stage of the journey. So of course every dementia journey, please know, looks completely different. Every stage of dementia looks different and every type of dementia looks different, but also every individual with dementia looks completely different. Just a little point there. But in my nan's journey in particular, her brain has very much become a scattered mess. So she has lots of different names of people that she's known throughout her life scattered in her brain, and she has loads of different memories that she's had with those people scattered throughout her brain, locations, items of things, everything. everything within her life that she's learnt from school, from being a baby, to growing up in the world, to being an adult, all scattered across her brain. Now, her life before dementia, they will have all had links with strings between the two, and they would all connect a person to a face, a name to the face, a memory to the person, and they will all have links between them with string. Now, with dementia, unfortunately, dementia is a bad guy, and it comes along and it snips all of those strings. So unfortunately, she doesn't have the names to the faces anymore because they're not linked. They're just surrounding her brain. So sometimes when she does have moments where she comes out with just like jumbled mess, that's because her brain is just being like fed random pieces of information, and they don't have a link, and they don't and can't find the words for them, and can't find the right category to find them anymore, because they're either gone completely or they've been lost. So yeah, that is kind of how I view dementia and how it looks in the brain. Of course, there are a lot more scientifically proven explanations for it, but that's just how I see it, and that's the analogy that I choose to share and use to help myself and others understand it. And I think sometimes it doesn't always need lots of information about exactly what is going on in the brain, because it doesn't change anything, it doesn't make it any better. You can't take dementia away, it just helps you understand it on a bit more of a nicer level. It doesn't sound as scary, to be quite honest. And something that I recently learned when I was researching for this video is that short-term memories fade first, and then the long-term memories actually stay much longer, which is really interesting, because my nan is now disappearing right back into her earliest stages of life, and she has a lot of memories that she unravels there and speaks about in a lot of depth, and doesn't really speak about her life just before she had dementia. So that is quite an interesting point. I don't know how true that is. It could be a complete myth, but that is exactly what I'm seeing on this journey, in particular with my nan. And I'd love to hear if anybody else has had the same sort of experience with their loved ones with dementia too. And with that, when the memories are disappearing and all those strings are cut, the brain tries to find something that is the closest match to fill the gap. So if you think about a sentence, you know those sentences at school where they used to miss a word out and used to have to try and put the missing word in there? With dementia, the brain causes that naturally, and it can't find the word or the memory or the person or the face for that particular gap. So it just chooses anything that's floating around and pulls it down. So sometimes that's why sentences don't make sense, or they can't find the word in the middle of a sentence, or they forget the location of something and they stumble across their words. That is why, because all these bits are just floating around their brain, and that's how it looks. And it's really sad. I wish I could do everything within my heart to pull all of those back together, and for my nan to recognise me in her life that she had and has, because yeah, she truly had such an incredible story of life, and it's such a shame that that can disappear with dementia. It's such an awful, heartbreaking disease in so many ways. Yeah, that is a little video on why my nan calls me mummy and how that journey kind of looks. Again, I could go into depth a lot more, but I just wanted to keep it really brief and explain. For those that do have a lot of questions about it and want to understand it themselves, there will always be this video on my channel that you can watch back at any point. And just a massive thank you as always for being here. If you have made it right through to the end, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on the notification bells, gosh there's loads here, and also leave a comment. That would mean the world to me. And I shall see you guys in the next video. And just as my nan always said to me growing up, your love, kindness and support was the world to me, and I always felt like that with my nan too. So thank you for your love, kindness and support, because it means so much. It really, really does. And I'll see you guys in the next one.